following her bombshell resignation from the Marcos cabinet last week, Vice President Sara Duterte drops yet another surprising announcement. She reveals that not one, not two, but three members of their political family will run for senator in 2025.
Si PRD, senator, yung kuya ko, si Paulo Duterte, yung congressman ngayon, senator, si Sebastian Duterte.
So tatlo ang Duterte next year for senator?
Yes, tatlo ang Duterte.
The Vice President made this revelation in an event in Cagayan de Oro City, but the surprises do not end there. The Vice President says her brother, current Davao City Mayor Baste, might run for president in 2028 while she plans to return as mayor of Davao City. Sara made it clear, though, that she will not be letting go of the vice presidency.
Now, after resigning from the Marcos cabinet, some of the Duterte's allies said VP Sara has now become the new leader of the opposition. However, the vice president belied this claim.
Wala akong pinag-usapan ngayon na politika. Sa tingin ko ay magkaibigan pa rin kami ni Pangulong Bongbong Marcos.
During that event, Vice President Sara was also asked about what she and President Marcos talked about when she handed in her resignation. Here's her response.
Sa ibang panahon, pag-uusapan natin yan. Sa ngayon, ang pag-uusapan natin ay ang transition na.
Ito talaga si Vice President Sara, no? Minsan matipid ang sagot.
Yes.
Pero kung gusto niya mag-drop ng bomb, no hesitation, she will drop the bomb.
Tuloy-tuloy pa.
Oo. And just for context, she was at an LGBTQIA event.
Pride event.
Yes, a pride event in Cagayan de Oro. So I think her statements sometimes can be kind of very, not very revealing. But she, during ambush interviews, ang daming lumalabas.
Full force nga itong House of Duterte. But another thing netizens noticed during her resignation speech last week was actually this scar on her neck.
Ang dami nga nagtanong.
Galing nga ba saan yan? Oo.
Maraming speculations na if it was from a surgery, di ba, or an operation.
Or
Pero wait
something
lang,
else.
guys. Kasi meron siyang sagot dyan. In a now viral TikTok video. Natanong rin nga si Vice President Sara about that scar on her neck. Her answer, as usual, was short and sweet but seemed to insinuate something.
Sinubukan nila akong igurgur pero hindi sila nagtagumpay.
Sabi ng gurgur.
Okay, gurgur is a Bisaya word which roughly translates to ginilitan or to slash or slit the neck. And she was asked to explain this response of hers during today's event, again on the sidelines. Pakinggan natin ang sinabi ng ating Vice Presidente.
Hindi naman na siguro kailangan i-interpret yun, very straightforward yun. Tinanong ako kung ano yung sugat na nasa leeg ko at sinabi ko na sinubukan nila akong igurgur pero hindi sila nagtagumpay.
Sino kayong sinabi?
Silang lahat.
Another blind item.
Mahilig sa hugot itong si Vice Presidente.
At
Tsaka
saka
sa mga
parinig.
blind item.
Oo, blind item. Pero since wala siyang binanggit, syempre lahat tayo try natin hulaan. And if we can remember yung most recent na nakagit-kita niya, so to speak, no? Remember that tambalos-los episode between her and House Speaker Romualdez, and nagsimula ito lahat sa confidential funds na hindi siya pinagbigyan. Although yesterday, the House Speaker said na namimiss na raw niya ang dating unity team. We'll now be rolling a clip of what the House Speaker said exactly para hindi tayo ma-misquote, and then we will play back-to-back the reaction of Vice President Sara to that. Panoorin natin to.
We miss the closer interactions that we had during the campaign, but nonetheless, there's politics and there's personal, and we only wish the Vice President nothing but the best.
Sabi ni Speaker Romualdez na miss na daw niya yung unity niyo dati during election. And anong comment natin dito?
Well, so, hindi mali yun, wala siyang sinabi.
Wala.
Tumawa lang siya.
Alam naman natin, that the news is important because we do know that the Vice President is a front runner in surveys for the upcoming 2028 presidential elections.
Tama kang Gretch, yung trust and approval ratings niya are the highest, still higher than President Bongbong Marcos.
So let's unpack that, and to help us with that, let's bring in our first guest for tonight. We have Mr. Julio Teehankee, Political Science Professor from De La Salle University. Magandang gabi.
Good evening, Gretchen, Sean, and Pauline. Thanks for having me.
Okay, Professor, 3 Dutertes in the Senate. Did this shock you? And do you see this as a way of shielding themselves from the ICC probe, or are you seeing something else here?
Well, this latest news and development only proves the observation that politics in the Philippines is all in the family. Diba? So the news announced by no less than the VP Sara herself is also straight out of yung tinatawag nating Duterte populist playbook, no? Yung disruptive politics, no? Yung medyo nakakayanig ng mga balitang ganyan. And of course, alam naman natin, we all know that the former president is known for his performative politics, no? And now that you've mentioned it, no, the daughter VP Sara is like the Cheshire cat, no? Matalinghaga palagi ang mga short comments niya, di ba?
Diba? So, very short, very sweet, at magtataka ka talaga. But ako,
Yes.
for me, Prof, mas malaking bombshell yung sinasabi niya about roughly the plans for 2028, which is that si Mayor Baste Duterte daw ang tatakbo. As we know, we didn't see this coming. Wala pa siyang early survey numbers at all. What do you think about
Right.
that?
Well, there are several ways to read this latest development, no? Una-una, first, we can see it as a political smokescreen, no, to cover their real motives, no? Remember, itong mga Dutertes are both on the defensive and on the offensive politically at this point in time, no? Perhaps this is just one of in a series, no, of political misdirection from their end, no? And second, they're still banking on the Duterte brand, which is still very potent at this point. Now, geographically, they can still count on the Visayas and Mindanao, and the former president and the VP herself remain popular despite the recent controversies. And third and lastly, it's possible that one of the Dutertes will run, no, for the Senate. No? Most likely, it's Mayor Baste. He's been trying to emulate his father in recent months. So parang pinapatakam nila yung base nila, no? At tinatago kung sino talaga ang tatakbo, no? Kasi if you look at it, it would be politically unwise for them to all run in the Senate, no? And leave their kingdom unattended and defenseless in Davao, no? Remember, they're also facing a very tough challenge from their former ally, the Nogralises, no? And
But,
it's possible, no, na mag-iikot-ikot sila, pero in the end, no, si VP Sara pa rin ang kandidato sa 2028. Perhaps the father or si Pulong will run for the Senate. Basta it's parang nakatago pa rin yan.
Do you think nakatago talaga on that thought, Professor? Because hindi naman din sobrang rare na may mag-ama or, di ba, parent and child or magkakapatid na nasa Senado. We have
no?
2 pairs right now of those.
Right,
Although we
right.
know that Senator Cynthia is graduating, which would leave Mark Villar alone.
Right.
But the Cayetano siblings are still there. So, wala
Precisely.
naman yatang illegal, di ba? Tanggap naman nating mga Pilipino that that's how it goes.
In fact, it
yeah.
goes to show na yun nga ang problema. We have already normalized this kind of politics, no, in dynastic politics na tinatawag natin. Kasi nga in the Philippines, it is political clans and not political parties that are the building blocks of our politics, no? So na-normalize na yan, lalong-lalong na sa Senado. Alam nyo, no politician would even think about it 2 decades ago, immediately after the EDSA Revolution. Walang mag-iisip na magkamag-anak tatakbo sa Senado, no? So isang pangitain na baka talagang kailangan balikan natin at itulak talaga yung enabling law regulating political dynasties in the country.
Well, Professor, it is a numbers game, no? Ang politics, alam naman natin,
Precisely.
strength in numbers rin yan. And as
Right.
we mentioned earlier, marami pong nagulat dito sa announcement ni VP Sara. And isa na nga po dyan is si Senator Bato de la Rosa. And he
Right.
actually told 1PH, sa totoo lang earlier, that he was surprised but also happy about this announcement. We actually have a soundbite. Let's listen to this.
Medyo nabigla. Ngayon lang natin narinig yung balita na yan. So, nabigla tayo. But anyway, para sa amin, masaya kami. Dahil kung totoo yan, hindi kami magkakaroon ng lonely campaign ni Senator Bongo. Iniisip kasi namin kami dalawa lang. Kung tatakbo sila, plus 3 na kami. So, marami-rami na. Masaya itong kampanya namin.
Well, like what Senator Bato said nga, no? Yun nga, dun pumapasok yung numbers game, the strength in numbers.
Right.
So, Prof, do you think 2025, the midterm elections, is shaping up to be an administration versus Duterte contest? Are they really the new opposition?
Okay, kasi on the downside, this announcement, no, while it highlights the Duterte brand, no, it can also be seen as a weakness, particularly on their party, no, yung tinatawag na ngayong PDP walang laban, no, kasi they dropped the laban name, no, so the PDP na lang sila. So they can't even complete the slate, no. So how the mighty has fallen, no, parang hindi na makabuo ng buong slate, and in fact, aminado rin si Senator Bato na yung tatlong re-electionist sa partido nila malalagas pa, magiging dalawa na lang sila. So parang this is a desperation, no, on their part siguro kung yun ang talagang iniisip na. Pero I don't think it's that, no. It's actually something deeper, no. May ano yan, no. May laro. Ngayon, again, political rule of thumb, no, dito sa Pilipinas, administration usually has the incumbency advantage in midterm elections. So mahirap bumangga, especially in a 6-year presidency, mahirap bumangga sa incumbent, lalo na sa midterms. No? Palaging yamado ang administration slate. Now, with regard to the opposition, there will be, I think, 2 blocks of opposition, the Dutertes and then the traditional mainstream opposition led by the coalition that supported VP Lenny's presidential campaign. But the irony is, mas marami pang mapapagkasunduan yung mainstream opposition at BBM administration kesa sa Duterte opposition at mainstream opposition.
Nagkakasundo na nga sila now, Prof. For all
Yes.
intents and purposes, we see them, yung mga so-called dilawan, they're agreeing. They're on very good terms with the administration. So what do we make of this? Kung parang mukhang, kumbaga na lumamya or parang na-dilute or na-water down yung ating opposition, does that not open a door for the Dutertes to claim?
Not necessarily, no? Kasi ang points of agreement is a matter of foreign policy, particularly with regard to our worsening relationship with China, and then the question of accountability with the supposed entry of the ICC in the Philippines, no, regarding the investigation of the war on drugs, no. So these are very, very important foreign policy issues that apparently the administration and the mainstream opposition have common grounds, no. Now, whether this will translate into an electoral alliance is another issue altogether, no? But in terms of politics at this point in time, what we're just seeing is that mas malapit ang mainstream opposition sa administrasyon kesa sa mga Dutertes.
Professor, speaking of numbers, what's curious to me is the numbers of Paulo and Baste Duterte. We do know that former President Duterte, malakas sa buong Pilipinas. Si Sara Duterte rin, mataas ang rating. Pero yung dalawa, ang alam lang natin sa local, they have a stronghold on that. But when it comes to the national, do we have any sense of how they would fare? Especially if you have 3 Dutertes running for the Senate and you have only 12 to elect in the midterms.
Right. Again, it's a double-edged sword. One, it's relying on the potency of the Duterte name recall or the brand. On the other end, it might lead to confusion, no, and it might split their votes, no. Remember what happened to JB Ejercito and Jinggoy Estrada in 2019, no. Pareho silang natalo dahil nahati yung boto nila. But they managed to get their acts together and nanalo naman sila noong 2022. No? So, it can go both ways.
It seems to me this is just their family's response with the recent spate of attacks. But how about the ICC investigation? Would they gain anything if they do run and win Senate seats?
Of course, kasi well, I'm not a lawyer, so but I'm thinking that they will think that the father is thinking of immunity, no, while they are in office, no, while they are senators, no. So I think that's part of the game plan, no. And of course, if they are seated in the Senate, they will have another arena by which they can argue their case, no, and defend their position politically.
Balikan ko lang yung sinabi mo kanina, no, about the populist playbook, Professor Teehankee.
Right.
Because earlier I was watching our sister program, Storycon, and they had
Yeah.
Ronald Llamas, a former political advisor to
Yes.
President Noynoy there. He was
Yes.
saying na, kasi normally nga, ang pinupunto kung maaga ka masyado nag-announce, ano pa nga lang ba, 2024 pa lang, para sa 2028, usually natatalo. Pero ang pinoint out nila is that kung populist ka, such as President Erap, former President Erap, kahit isang mayor lang yata, yung nasa partido nila, kumbaga yung brand is strong. So, parang all the other, concerns about machinery, blah, 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 kumbaga na-echapwera
Yes.
na yun, and it doesn't count. What are your thoughts on that?
It's good that you mentioned the estradas, no? Kasi nga, there's also the phenomenon of political or dynastic overstretch, no? And this actually happened to the estradas in 2019. In practically all the positions they ran for both national and local, natalo sila. Natalo sila sa Maynila, natalo sila sa San Juan, natalo yung magkapatid sa Senado. At yung iba pang mga kamag-anakan nila, maski sa Pangasinan. Pangasinan ba? Si E.R. Ejercito, di ba?
Laguna.
Laguna, oo, sa Pagsanhan pala, sorry. So, yun, no? Natalo, na-wipe out sila, no? So, it's possible na magkaroon ng miscalculation din on the part of the Dutertes if they overstretch, they leave their kingdom in Davao unprotected, no? And they run, all of them will run for the Senate, then baka matalo sila.
Prof, I just wanted to get your thoughts on this also now. Is Baste Duterte the new Digong, or sinasabi nga nila, Digong 2.0, at hindi si Sara?
Again, no, it's possible, kasi, well, both Pulong and Baste are emulating their father's style, no? Yung populist style, the way magsalita, even yung intonation, yung, di ba? It's everything, no? So they're both emulating their father. But I guess they are prepping Baste for a national position. No? He might be the one to run for the Senate. They might consider him as a backup for the presidency in 2028. All of these are now at play, no? And it is possible, no, na dyan patungo yan.
Okay, Professor, alam naman natin na malaki talaga ang naitulong ni VP Sara Duterte sa candidacy ni President Marcos back in 2022. Gusto ko lang malaman kung may naririnig po ba kayo, kung meron sila naging internal agreement when it comes to the next elections to come. Because for me, I mean, just seeing things play out, parang if I were the Vice President, I'd feel betrayed by the incumbents, by the administration, given what has happened over the past months. I mean, what's happening now is this exposing their anger towards what has happened. At meron bang hindi natupad? Meron bang napag-usapan?
Yeah.
May naririnig ba kayo?
Right. Alam nyo, dito sa bansa natin, we're a country of political cliches, no? And isa sa mga political cliches na paborito natin, that in politics, there are no permanent friends or enemies, only political interests, no? So sa larangang politika at sa mga nakikita natin ngayon, no, mukhang ganun nga, no, na ironically ang first majority president under the post-Marcos era is a Marcos, no? And it was made possible by the unity, no, ang pagsasanib ng pwersa ng mga Duterte at ng mga Marcoses. Of course, even nung pagkapanalo ng Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte, malaki rin ang naitulong ng mga Marcos. pero sa mata ng isa't isa, bayad na yon nung pinayagan ni Pangulong Duterte ang paglibing ng ama ng mga Marcos sa libingan ng mga bayani. So it's another political deal altogether itong 2022. So siguro may mga naipangako na hindi na-deliver, kaya dyan nagsimula ang alitan na ngayon ay mukhang all-out animosity na. No? This is a kumbaga all-out animosity between the two former allies.
Ito pa, Prof, no, speaking of animosity, US versus China, sa nakikita
Yes.
kong mga developments, ito personal lang sa akin, but I wanted to get your thoughts. Kumbaga,
Yes.
everybody knows Team Duterte is allied with China. Kumbaga, ganun yung team up, diba? Tapos yung
Right.
Team Marcos is allied with the United States. Ngayon, we
Right.
also know and we have numbers from surveys showing na mas
Right.
pabor talaga ang mga Pilipino o kumbaga mas kampi sila, quote-unquote, sa United States. How will this
Right.
play out sa election? How can the Dutertes leverage kumbaga ang perceived good relationship sila with China to help them win next year and maybe all the way to 2028?
Yeah. Kasi nga magkaiba yan, no? Sa mata ng publiko, no, wala sila, maliit ang tiwala nila sa China at malaki ang tiwala nila sa bansang Amerika. Pero pagdating sa mga politiko, no, mas mataas ng kaunti ang kanilang tiwala sa mga Duterte as na kumpara sa mga Marcos, no, sa mga recent surveys na nakikita natin. Ngayon, ang mangyayari dito, itataya ba ng mga Duterte itong political capital nila sa publiko para idepensa ang interes ng China? Yan ang magiging tanong. No? At kung gawin nila ito ba ay magiging sanhi ng kanilang tuluyang pagbagsak at pagkawala ng political capital nila sa taong bayan? So, yan ang isang dapat isipin natin. Ngayon sa banda naman sa mga Marcos, no, ang nakikita natin kasi ngayon, no, ang lalo na si BBM, no, is actually playing what is known as the politics of redemption, no. Gusto niyang ma-redeem ang brand ng mga Marcos, no. And in fact, he is emulating the early Marcos, no, yung naunang anyo ng kanyang ama, yung medyo democratic na cold warrior na pro-US na security-oriented. So ganun ang postura ngayon ng ating Pangulo, no, trying to emulate the early Marcos, not the latter Marcos na naging dictator, but rather the cold warrior na Marcos. No? So these are the two narratives at play at titignan natin kung hanggang saang political capital ang kaya nila at gusto nilang itaya para dito sa mga naratibo nila.
But can Filipinos really attach West Philippine Sea issues or other issues to the elections? I mean, di ba nakikita natin sa survey na minsan, iba yung stance ng isang politiko tungkol dito sa issue na to, nadadawit sa ganitong skandalo, pero malakas pa rin pagdating sa approval
Yes.
ratings. I mean, do you think that it will affect somehow the upcoming
Well,
elections?
kung araw-araw nating nakikita kung paano tayo wina-water cannon at paano tayo binubuli at ngayon may nasaktan na sa isa sa mga kawal natin, talagang lalala pa ito, no? Lalo na sa mata ng publiko, no? And with social media, no, na pag naging viral to at na-amplify pa to ng social media, medyo dehado yung mga magdedepensa sa interest ng China. But of course, on the other end, no, ang sinasabi naman ng iba, no, lalo na sa Duterte camp, is ayaw nila ng gera. At bakit tayo nakikipag-away? Parang nakikipagpasalubo tayo.
Okay, Prof.
Ibang storya naman yan. No? So, at alam naman natin na hindi sa atin nagsisimula ang gulo.
Okay, balikan natin yung statement ni Vice President Sara earlier today. Ang sabi no, ay balak niya ay bumalik na lang bilang mayor, bilang alkalde ng Davao City.
Yes.
Would that be a smart move for her bilang siya nga yung pinakasikat ngayon sa kanilang magkakapatid, apart from her dad, of course. Ang sabi is payo daw ito ng kanyang mom. Would this be a good idea? Especially since nabanggit mo nga no, that they're kind of in a turf war with the Nograleses. Just for the benefit of our viewers, parang binigay kasi, give up nung mga Nograleses yung kanilang distrito para kay Paulo Duterte nung kasagsagan nung rule or nung administration ni PRRD. Ngayon, they're the Nograleses are seen to be fighting for that, their district, to get it back. What are your thoughts on that gulo naman, no, dyan sa race na yan sa Davao City?
Yeah. So this news has been going around, especially in Davao, since last year, no? Kasi nga medyo malakas nga ang challenge ng mga Nograleses na actually long-term nemesis din ng former President Rodrigo Duterte nung mayor pa siya, no? Although nagkaroon sila ng reconciliation under the presidency of Duterte, no? At ngayon they're back at each other's throat, no? Baka doon nang galing yung gurgur ni VP Sara, no? So they're really at each other's throat, no? So one possible play is for her to go back, and nababalitaan na rin yan last year pa na baka isa sa mga options niya bumalik na lang siya sa Davao at doon na lang tumakbo ng mayor and let the other Dutertes, the brothers, take her position. Pero that would be politically unwise kasi nakaupo na siya. So she's just a heartbeat away from the presidency and anything can happen, di ba? So kumbaga, and again, this time borrowing naman from GMA's playbook, no? For as long as you're in the vice presidency, no? You're a heartbeat away from the presidency. So, ano yan no? Parang no? Unahan sila, no? Unahan sila, no? Kung ano man yung plano nila sa isa't isa, mag-uunahan sila.
Right, mukhang mahaba-haba pa tong laban na to. We hope to have you back
tayo
here.
sa October. Before October.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Professor Julio Teehankee, Political Science Professor from De La Salle University.